5:30. We'll go ahead and call the Porterville City Council meeting to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Tate. Here. Councilmember Carrillo.
Present.
Vice Mayor Flores.
Present.
Mayor Reyes.
Present. Thank you. And this is a time for oral communications, the opportunity to address the City Council on any matter scheduled for closed session. Unless additional time is authorized by the council, all commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to come forward for oral communications? And as you come forward, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Greg Meister, 1160 Jean Avenue. People around the community wondered, and we talked and asked, why did the Christmas parade run during the day? It's always been at night. Why did all the other cities in Tulare County get to have their parade at night and ours was ran during the day? I told them because our mayor and city council knows COVID-19 is a smart virus and only attacks people at night. You were only trying to save lives following the science. Sitting here at the last meeting while you were patting each other on the back over how great the vaccination booths went during the parade, I realized you stole the lights from the children of Porterville to run vaccination booths during the parade. Shame on you all. You patted each other on the back for small businesses opening back up when you were the hand of Newsom's overreach that closed those businesses. Shame on you all. You have once again voted to continue your emergency powers, breaking our state constitution. Congress has not declared war, and you have no right to vote emergency powers. Since you have voted emergency powers, I propose an idea. You stop all mandates against the city employees, police department and fire department. You make Porterville a sanctuary city against unconstitutional mandates. Being in a position of monarch, you must ask yourself some real questions. Why do I have to wear a mask even though I've been triple vaxxed? How come the triple vaxxed are still getting sick? Why did more people die in 2021 than in 2020 when we had 3 vaccines the whole year? What happened to the flu? Why is the only plan, as our President of the United States would say, get vaccinated? Just do it. Get vaccinated. I'd like to propose another idea. Being the vaccination campaign has failed to stop the spread, why don't we talk about pre-treatment therapeutics? You are in a position to serve the people. You have an opportunity to save lives. You need to inform the people about You need to inform the people about medicines like ivermectin, a Nobel Prize-winning drug that slows the replication of the virus in all phases. Hydroxychloroquine is a drug used to fight malaria and has been used for over 70 years.
Sir, please, you are not a medical doctor. You are live and you're not allowed to be spreading information that you're not qualified to spread, please. Please, if you have something to say about the closed session items, we'd appreciate you staying on topic.
I'm not stating that ivermectin, that I'm a doctor and it is a proven therapeutic. And not only that, but before you, if I can continue. These drugs are being used by our military. This is not a conspiracy. They're therapeutics that can save lives. You can inform the people to take their vitamins, zinc, and minerals that help build your immune system in the fight against COVID. Most importantly, you need to inform the people about monoclonal antibodies. You are in a position to serve. You swore an oath to the Constitution to uphold. Please stop chasing the COVID money and do what's best for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak during oral communications for closed session items?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So you can go ahead and read the closed session items.
Thank you, Your Honor. There are 7 items before the council this evening in closed session. The first, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, Compass Real Property Negotiators Property, APN 302-480-001, 302-130-028, and 302-130-015, Agency Negotiator John Lawless, Negotiating Party City of Porterville, and Rick Perigo, road siding under negotiation terms and price. Item 2, Government Code Section 54957.6, Conference Legal Negotiator, Agency Negotiator John Lawless and Patrice Hildreth, Employee Organizations, Porterville Peace Officers Association, Fire Officers Series, Porterville City Firefighters Association, Public Safety Support Unit, Management and Confidential Series, Porterville City Employees Association, all unrepresented management employees. Item 3, Government Code Section 54956.95, Liability Claim, Claimant Christopher J. Kyle, Agency claimed against City of Porterville. Item 4, Government Code Section 54956.95, Liability Claim, Claimants Alfonso Godoy and Alma Pineda Ibarra, Agency claimed against City of Porterville. Item 5, Government Code Section 54956.9, Subsection D, Subsection 1, Cost of Legal Counsel, Existing Litigation, Statewide Traffic Safety and Signs Incorporated v. California Professional Engineering et al. And related cross complaints, Tulare County Superior Case Number 284137. Item 6, Government Code Section 54956.9, Subsection D, Subsection 3, comes to legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure litigation, 5 cases in which facts are not yet known to potential plaintiff. And item 7, Government Code Section 54956.9, Subsection D, Subsection 4, comes to legal counsel, anticipated litigation, initiation of litigation, 2 cases. Staff's report.
Okay, thank you. We will now move into closed session and reconvene at 6:30 PM.
me know when you're ready. It is 6:55. We will reconvene open session and report on reportable action taken in closed session.
Yes, Vice Mayor, this is David Yanez, Deputy City Attorney, in closed session on the liability claim by Christopher J. Kyle against the city. The council voted with a motion by Councilmember Flores, seconded by Councilwoman Tate, and a vote of 5-0 to reject the claim. On the second liability claim against the city by Alfonso Godoy and Alma Pineda Ibarra, the council also voted to reject the claim by a vote of 5-0. That was motioned by Councilmember Stowe and seconded by Councilwoman Flores, and that was rejected 5-0.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank the audience for their patience with recognizing that we had an emergency. We will now, please join me and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will go ahead and lead, and remain standing for the invocation or a moment of silence. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there anyone that would like to step forward and do an invocation? Go ahead, and then you can go ahead.
Heavenly Father, please watch over us as we make our decisions tonight, and we thank those who serve us in the community, our protective services officers, our nurses, our doctors, our firemen, and please keep our community safe. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for this beautiful day. I thank you for all these people that have joined together, Lord, in unity. Lord, I ask you and I invite you into this meeting that you would bring peace, that you'd bring protection here and now and forevermore. Lord, this is a city that we trust in you, and so I ask that we'd stand together and that your presence would be with us tonight, and that we would be people knowing that we trust you and we love you. And we thank you in your mighty name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. We will not have any presentations. That will be continued to next month. We will now go into oral communications. This is the opportunity to address the council on any matter of interest, whether on the agenda or not. Please address all items not scheduled for public hearing at this time. Unless additional time is authorized by the council, all commentary shall be limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone in the audience? Please state your name and address for the record, and it will be 3 minutes.
Brock Neely, address on record. Mr. Lawless. What you're receiving is an article out of the Sacramento Bee from December 28th. Back in September 11th in 2013 was the first meeting of the newly formed Charter Review Committee. At that meeting, one of our staff members from this city claimed that CalPERS was a broken system. It was never going to recover, even though at that date it was a $268 billion fund value. It had recovered $156 billion that it lost in the 2008 crash. As of December 28th, it was at $500 billion. So I guess that's not recovering. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there someone else that would like to come and step forward for oral communications? Do we have anyone virtually? for oral communications?
Your Honor, at this moment, I would like to invite those that are in attendance to go ahead and raise their hand via Zoom so that if they wish to speak, I'll
Thank
go ahead and
you.
give them some time. Your Honor, it does appear that there is someone that does wish to speak.
There is someone electronically. Please let that person in. Okay, I understand. I did see that. To the person on Zoom, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Your Honor, they just suddenly left the meeting, and it doesn't appear that anyone else is wishing to speak.
Okay, we no longer have anyone electronically. Please go ahead and come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Camila Garcia. I live in Linda Vista, Porterville. It's regarding about the sphere of influence that you're gonna talk about. I'm here today with concern and frustration. I have expressed this council my desire that our property will not be a part of the sphere of influence last year. Since then, I have not been notified or contacted and in any form that you will be discussing my property, my neighbors. My neighbors and I have all stated that we do not wish to be included in the sphere of influence. I also believe, as a property owner, we have the right to be properly notified of any possible changes on our properties. Again, please do not allow my property to be included in the sphere of influence. Thank you and have a nice evening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I have a question before we begin. Is this the same information that was presented to us in oral communications at the beginning of the last oral communications?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
In Your Honor, if I can, we have a time definite public hearing that was scheduled for 7 o'clock, so we need to begin that at this moment.
all right.
It's violating the Browns Act.
No, no. We're going to give you that window, but we have to start the public hearing at 7 o'clock, and it will come back to you after we do the public hearing.
Thank you, ma'am.
We're not dismissing that. Thank you. Okay. All right. We will now move the public hearing to this time. You will be given the chance for oral communications. We have to start this hearing right now. It is, let's go to the agenda item for the public hearing.
Thank you, Your Honor. Is item number 15 on the council's agenda, which is consideration of revised city council district electoral boundaries as required by California Elections Code Section 21621, public hearing number 2. And Ms. Hildreth will provide the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Lawless. We have with us via Zoom Mr. Tyler Anthony, and he is our consultant with the law firm of Best and Krieger, and he will be presenting the staff report this evening.
Hi there, good evening. My name is Tyler Anthony. I'm an attorney with the Election Services Group at Best and Krieger, and we are serving as a consultant to the city in the process of redrawing its city council district lines. So I'm going to be showing a PowerPoint presentation, so give me just one moment as I share my screen here. Sorry, just one moment. I'm sorry about this. I'm just having a little bit of technical difficulty. Give me just one moment. Okay. Can everybody see the PowerPoint presentation that I'm sharing now?
Yes.
Is that visible? Great. So again, apologies for the difficulties there. As I said, my name is Tyler Anthony. I'm an attorney with Best and Krieger, and we're going to be talking today about the ongoing process of redrawing the city council district lines for the city of Porterville. So some topics that we're going to be discussing today. Well, actually, before I get into that, let me just say, for those of you that were at our first public hearing in this process, a lot of this information is going to sound familiar to you. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to present that information to you again for anybody that may not have been able to hear it the first time, and also to solicit any feedback as we go back and on our end attempt to draw the new city district lines. So anyway, that's just kind of an overview of what we'll be talking about. A lot of it will be a bit of a review. And in terms of the specific things we'll be talking about, we're going to be talking about some project timelines, some key deadlines that you'll want to keep an eye out for, and then also some next steps and the next set of public hearings. So by way of explanation, the city of Porterville holds, the city council members hold 4-year terms. So districts 1 and 2 will be having an election in November of 2022. Districts 3, 4, and 5 will have an election in November 2024. And this slide kind of depicts the redistricting process. So the first step has been two initial pre-draft public hearings. And what that means is we are in the process of generating some draft maps depicting the city council member district lines. And that's a 4-hearing process. So the first 2 hearings are kind of what we're experiencing today, and then the first public hearing a short while ago, where we're going to try to get some information from the public about things they want to see in their maps, and then we're going to take that information back and incorporate it into the draft maps that we create. There is an initial deadline for draft maps. So the deadline for the public to submit draft maps for inclusion in this process will be, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but there will be a deadline for that. Then after that, the draft maps that we generate along with feedback from the council and the community will be released onto the project website. After that point, we'll have 2 more public hearings where we can discuss and revise or adopt the draft maps. And then we have a deadline to adopt a new map, which is in April. So in terms of the legal requirements for this process, they can be categorized into 3 general buckets. So the first bucket, so to speak, is federal law. And a few things to keep in mind to ensure that the new maps are compliant with federal law is that each district should be roughly of equal population. So there should be roughly the same number of people in each of the districts. We also need to avoid any kind of racial gerrymandering, which means intentionally drawing those lines in a way that would disproportionately impact or dilute the vote of minority voters. In addition to federal law, we have some requirements under the California Fair Maps Act, and that's that second bucket depicted by the red arrow there. So those requirements include the district should be geographically contiguous, meaning that they kind of all parts of the district should be connected to one another. There shouldn't be islands of one district that are disconnected from any other portion of that district. So we want to try to keep those districts contiguous. We also want to maintain the integrity of local neighborhoods and communities of interest. We want to try to make the boundaries as easily identifiable and understandable as we can through the use of common landmarks or boundary lines. And then finally, the districts, to the extent that we can, we want to make them geographically compact, meaning that they're a little more compact as opposed to spread out north, south, east, west. We want to try to the extent that we can, think about these districts in terms of your kind of classical geometric shapes to the extent that that's possible. And then finally, we have some guiding principles that we try to comply with as well. So some of those include minimizing voters being shifted to different election years. So the people that are currently in line to vote this year should vote this year. We also want to respect voters' choices and maintain continuity in office. So what this means is, we don't want to, unseat a sitting council member, for instance, through this process. We can consider future population growth. And, an overriding goal also is that we want to preserve the core of existing districts. So this map depicts the current districts for the city of Porterville. So just so that you guys can kind of visualize that. And then here's some data concerning those districts. So this is the 2020 census data that we're using. And as you can see from the table here, it's broken up into the various districts. And at the bottom, you see something that says total population. So that's the total census data population for the city, which is 62,000. The ideal district population is 12,577 or 78, I guess, if you round up that 0.8 of a person. And it's the ideal district population because it's the amount of people that would make each of the districts of equal population. So it's basically taking that total population, dividing it by the number of districts, 5, and that's how you come to that ideal district population. Looking to the table, you can see all of the 5 districts. The second column to the right, you see the total population for each district. The next column over, you can see the raw deviation from the ideal district population. So for instance, with district number 1, it has about 161 more people in that district than the ideal district population. So that's kind of what that column refers to. The deviation percentage column right next to it kind of just, makes that into a percentage. And at the bottom of the screen there, you see total deviation. And, this is basically the total amount that these districts vary from the ideal district populations. And that total deviation is 14.71. For reference, we really need to try to be under 10%, if at all possible. Anything over 10% will be suspect. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And then in addition on this table, the columns, beginning with the 6th column over, you see various demographic information for the district. And the reason why this is presented is because one thing that we need to try to consider to the extent we can is the prospect of creating what are called majority-minority districts. So as long as we can comply with all of the other requirements that we just talked about, it's also incumbent upon us to try to create majority-minority districts, which basically just means a district in which the citizens, the minority population of citizens over voting age is a majority of the total population. And so this demographic data will be useful in that way. So this kind of illustrates a lot of the things that we just talked about. The total deviation is higher than acceptable at 14.71%. Importantly, 4 of the 5 districts are already majority-minority population districts. So that would be districts 1, 2, 3, and 5, and they're majority-minority Hispanic. And then finally, and this is kind of really the headline, is the current district boundaries must be adjusted for population balance. So we must try to get close to that ideal population number per district as we can. So this is just a little bit more about the requirements that we talked about earlier. So these are kind of the most important aspects of redrawing these lines. So the most important is equal population. So again, as we've been talking about, Porterville has a little bit of a population problem that we'll need to address as we create draft maps. We also want to, empower the racial minority voice by avoiding things like racial gerrymandering We want to have geographically contiguous districts, as we talked about earlier. And importantly, these characteristics are measured objectively. So here are some further important considerations. So these could be considered maybe a level below the most important considerations that we just talked about. And these are things like using physical boundaries to delineate boundaries of the districts, things that are recognizable, and to emphasize compactness, again, as we were talking about, where you don't have, a district that looks like the blood splatter on a crime scene or something like that. That the districts are contiguous and relatively compact. And this is just a repeat. And, or rather, excuse me, I'm sorry. One other thing is that we want to try to identify and include communities of interest. And a community of interest is just kind of a block of voters that that share some kind of common interest, such that we would want to keep them together so that they could exercise their voice in the democratic process. So these could be anything like school attendance areas, special district service areas, and another example might be minority language communities. For instance, if there's a population in the city that speaks a particular language and that community should be kept in the same district. These are the types of communities of interest that we want to try to identify and keep together in the same district to the extent that we can. Communities of interest do not include incumbents' residences and purely political affiliations. So after I'm done with my spiel here, we would love to hear from the council and from the public about your neighborhoods, what their boundaries are, any notable areas in the city, what their boundaries are. Basically just information from the public about what they want to see in their district maps. We can take that feedback back as we prepare draft maps and try to incorporate that. And as I mentioned to you before, there are some tools available to the public to submit their own draft maps for consideration as well. But just wanted to highlight that after I'm done speaking, we'd love to hear from the public. We'd also like to be able to answer any questions that you have. As a preview of coming events, we're going to begin drafting maps for consideration at the next hearing on February 1st, 2022. Here are some resources for the public to stay informed of what's going on in the process. So the city has a website set up for this purpose called mapporterville.org, and it's the dedicated repository for all redistricting information. It's maintained for 10 years, and it will be updated regularly as this process unfolds. So if you want to write down mapporterville.org, probably a good place to visit to make sure that you're informed about this process. And here is just a screenshot of the website. And some additional resources available on the website are an online mapping tool, which will actually allow you to create your own district map and with some analysis and census data, so you can kind of see the way that the numbers shake out as you draw the map. The maps should be submitted no later than January 24th for consideration at the third public hearing. And again, the third public hearing is February 1st. And any maps should be submitted no later than February 2nd for consideration at the fourth public hearing. So the two key dates there are, if you want your map to be included for consideration at the third public hearing, you want to try to get it in by January 24th. And if you want it to be considered in the fourth public hearing, you should try to get it submitted no later than February 2nd. So in terms of a timeline and next steps, so in September of 2021, the prisoner adjusted census data was released by the state, and this is the data that we're using, to put together these maps and to ensure that that each of the districts have as equal population as possible. Following that, and what we're going to be doing next is we're going to draft maps based on population rebalance. So again, trying to tweak these maps so that the districts are as equally populated as possible. And we're also going to take and receive input at the first two public hearings, so the one that we've already had and tonight. And then there's going to be 2 additional public hearings before the council votes on a proposed final map. And then here are some questions for the council. I would open this up to you all with any questions at the end of this presentation, and also for any input that you may have in the draft maps so that we can make sure to incorporate that. Specifically, we want to know, would you like to start with a basic population rebalance, or are there significant changes to the current districts that you were envisioning? Another question that we had are there any neighborhoods or areas that you would like specifically addressed, including the downtown area or any others? So I'll pose that to the council at the conclusion of the presentation. And finally, here is a timeline with the next steps. So the key dates going forward are February 1st, 2022, which is the next public hearing where we'll consider and receive some input on the proposed draft maps. And then there's the 4th public hearing on February 15th, 2022. And then our deadline to submit the maps is April 17th, 2022. And that concludes the presentation. If the council has any questions or has any comments about information that they'd like incorporated into the draft maps, I'd love to hear from you guys. And the same goes for the public. If there's anything that you would like to be considered in the draft maps, you know, I invite you to make those thoughts known.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anthony, for the information. Before I open it up for the public hearing, does council have any questions of Mr. Anthony, or would you wish to conclude it once we're done?
Conclude. I don't have any questions.
Okay. Don't have any questions? Okay, then it is 7:22. We will open up the public hearing for comment specific to the redistricting of the maps. Is there anyone in the audience would like to come and speak to this regard? You will be given that opportunity. Please bear with us. We're doing the public hearing right now, and that other will come to you. Just be patient. Do we have anyone electronically?
Your Honor, it doesn't appear that anyone is raising their hands and wishing to speak.
Okay. See that there is none in the audience and that we don't have any virtually. It is 7:23. We will close the public hearing and bring it to council, and I'm going to turn to Councilmember Carrillo if there's anything that she would like to give direction to Mr. Anthony.
Yes. Let me look at my notes. Mr. Anthony, in the slides, the sections on the important considerations, I was just wondering, are all those items already things that you will look into as far as looking at Porterville, or are those the items that the council and public need to determine are the most important?
That's a very good question. So we're going to look into those considerations to the extent that we can, the extent that we have visibility into some of those things. So for instance, with respect to population rebalance, that's something that, you know, is going to be right at the top of our radar, and we have the data, you know, to kind of adequately address that. Regarding, for instance, racial gerrymandering, that is a little bit more difficult for us to assess without kind of some input, you know, from practices or things that we may not be aware of. Again, we can do a little bit based on the census data that we have, evidence of a problem of that for us to kind of address that. And we're not aware of anything like that in the city.
Okay. And then I was just wondering, one of the things that I was thinking about during the presentation and also the redistricting conversations is, the city goes through and does annual plans and then prepares for those projects that are done throughout the year. Is any of that taken into consideration of, plans and projects that are already approved for the upcoming, whether it be 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years?
Not in particular. That's not something that I think that we would ordinarily take into account in drawing these lines. Yeah, I mean, except to the extent that it could potentially bear on some of the legal requirements that we need to assess, which I'm not sure exactly how that would be pertinent to the district lines. But of course, if I'm misunderstanding something, or if there's information that would make that relevant, we would love to know that and be able to act accordingly.
Okay, I was just,
That's your question?
yes, I was just, thinking about things like we have major projects. I think the largest being the casino relocation, but other than that, road projects, housing projects, things like that. So, some of those are just in plans for the upcoming year or years, and so that could be in one district and then in another one in the upcoming year. So I was just thinking about those types of things.
Well, absolutely, and I think that is one area in which I think we could really use the council and the public's input. If there's some project, like, let's just say like a freeway, for instance, or something that's going to kind of affect the demographics, or that we want to be accounted for in the map, let us know kind of what those concerns are, and we can do what we can to kind of address those.
Okay, and then my third, I don't know if it's a question, but just on the section where you wanted council's feedback, and you gave the rebalance versus what was the other one, significant, anything? That was like one of the last slides you showed.
Sure. Let me just pull that back up, and I can share my screen again with you.
Because you were asking for feedback on how to go about
Right.
one or the other.
So basically, we were just asking if you had any specific, any specific guidance, and it may be the case that you don't, but we just wanted to kind of raise that question and give you guys the opportunity to provide input.
So if we wanted to go with you gave the example of just doing a rebalance or starting there.
Yes.
So if we did that, just, this is the first time I'm going through this whole process myself personally. So if we did that, would that just give us a glimpse using the rebalance with the new census info, and then we could see that? Do we get to look at those things before we make decisions, or how does that?
Yes, absolutely. So basically, without any specific direction, what we're going to focus on is a population rebalance. Those are the items that we're aware of that need the most work in creating these new maps. So what we're going to do is we are going to create draft district maps based primarily on that population rebalance that will be presented at the third public hearing.
Okay.
In addition to any other draft maps that the public has timely submitted at that point in time. So we will be able to see and have some options about what the new map looks like based on a population rebalance. And then from there, we can make changes to that to account for any additional things that we think of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Tate, did you have any questions or any input to this regard at this point? No. Okay, and Mr. Anthony, first I want to thank you for, and I want to stress to the audience and people who are maybe listening or watching virtually how important their input is. And that if they do go onto the Porterville link with the mapping and start following some of that information, perhaps some of that can be taken into consideration, and they become participants in that regard, and to present themselves in the hearings and to publicly speak and go with that. There are a lot of projects in all the districts, some more than others, and a lot of them have already been put in place. But all the projects in each district are of vital importance, whether they're 1 or 2 years out. Some of them have been planned years back. So with that into the considerations, and of course the attendance areas of the school districts. And when we talk about downtown, we're making reference to Main Street. And we're making reference to the businesses that are on all sides of Main Street and the outlying areas, as well as the arteries that come in. With regard to transportation, well, we think that all of those projects are important, especially when it pertains to access to Porterville. So that's just my input to this regard. Is that enough direction for you?
I think if you, I guess the only additional questions that I would ask, and I think this is something that maybe we could kind of further flesh out after the presentation. But just with respect to some of the projects that you mentioned, I guess we'd probably need a little bit more information concerning the impact that some of those projects might have on the maps. If it's anticipating shifting the population in a certain way, or has effects on demographics that we can kind of forecast. I think that those things we can incorporate. But I think it may be kind of difficult without a little bit more than that to be able to address some of those concerns. Does that make sense?
And I also want to be very considerate. We have 2 council members that are not here, that in the future, in the next public hearings, that we, to consider what they have to bring to the table. And we had an emergency, and so we are dealing with that this evening. However, that would be important to take their consideration into account as well.
Absolutely. Well, and I'll make a note to inquire again of the council at the next public hearing as well.
Thank you. So does that, we go back to the agenda on this one? Okay. Thank you very much for that information. And now I'm going to go state, and I'm going to say, we are going to go back to oral communications. However, I'm going to be very clear with this. When you come and you address us, would you please remove your cap so that we can see you as you address us? And that's just a courtesy and a protocol for council chamber decorum. This is how I run the council meetings. And to that regard, I know that there are some of you here for the Citrus Blossom, and you will be given your chance to as well, not there for oral communications. They stated that. So you can come under the oral communications to address that. So Mr. Meister, I know you wanted to come and address the council. We are back at oral communications. Please remember, it's 3 minutes, and you will state your name and address for the record.
Ma'am, question, do you want us to remove our face masks also with our
Courtesies, no, not for the meetings.
so you just want to see my hair?
We just want to see your eyes and see who we're talking to, and courtesies. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
How you doing? My name is Juan Martinez. I live on 1729 Linda Vista Avenue. And I've been talking to my neighbors about this sphere of influence, and everybody's against it. And so am I. And just like we have never received any notifications about the sphere of influence, that is being discussed today, and I'm totally against it. And I talked to my neighbors, like I said, and nobody was notified about this meeting that it was going to be taken care of today. I just want to say that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come and state something different under oral communications to this regard? Thank you.
Earlier, I was violated against the Browns Act. I am entitled to my 3 minutes. The mayor is not a doctor. He has no right to say I'm spreading false information. In fact, the city is pushing an emergency youth authorization, EUA, vaccine that is not FDA approved. Drugs like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine have been used by the military and are FDA approved. Proposing my idea. Being the vaccine campaign has failed to stop the spread, why don't we talk about pre-treatment therapeutics? You are in a position to serve the people. You have an opportunity to save lives. You need to inform the people about medicines like ivermectin, a Nobel Prize-winning drug that slows the replication of the virus in all phases. Hydroxychloroquine is a drug used to fight malaria and has been used for over 70 years, also used to fight COVID. Both of these drugs are used by our military. This is not conspiracy. These are therapeutics that can save lives. You can inform the people to take their vitamins. Zinc is a mineral that helps build your immune system in the fight against COVID. Most importantly, you need to inform the people about monoclonal antibodies. You're in a position to serve. You swore an oath to the Constitution to uphold. Please stop chasing the COVID money and do what's best for our community. Thank you. I'd like to apologize for blaming the city council and the mayor about the parade. I was misinformed. This man, Patricia, informed me that it was done by Rotary and not you guys. So I'd like to apologize for falsely stating that about you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone in virtually that would like to speak under oral communications?
Mayor Pro Tem, I just would like to remind the attendees listening in right now on the Zoom call to go ahead and raise their hand if they're wishing to speak.
Thank you. Are there any?
Your Honor, it doesn't appear that anyone is wishing to speak.
Thank you very much. We will now move into the AB 1234 reports. This is the time for all AB 1234 reports required pursuant to Government Code 53232.3. Do we have any report for the Tulare County Region Transit Subcommittee? Not for this meeting. The Eastern Tule Groundwater Sustainability Agency.
I think Mr. Knight can provide. He
you.
attended the meeting.
Yes, good evening. I did attend the meeting on January 6th of the Eastern Tule GSA Board of Directors meeting as the alternate representing the city. At that meeting, we did conduct business approving the minutes from the December 2nd meeting, also initiating a continuance of the resolution for public teleconferencing, approving the payment of bills, and approving the independent audit of the financials. In action items, the board took action to consider reappointments of the agency officers, in which Eric Borba was reelected to the chair, and Steve Kissling was vice chair, and Regilio Cadillo continues to be the secretary. All other committees, the stakeholder committee and executive committee chair positions remained unchanged as well. The Eastern Tule GSA also approved a Fifth Amendment to the rules and regulations, prioritizing the water diversions and how those accountings are taking place, also putting in place timeframes in which participants can opt out of the management zone. Also taking into consideration some landowner requests on accounting, and also taking into consideration water prioritization requests that represented those changes within the Amendment 5 that was approved by the board. In addition to that, approved the contract agreements with Four Creeks as they begin to develop a land subsidence monitoring and management plan. And there is a committee being formed. The committee will have a meeting conducted January 27th at 3 p.m. Over Zoom. And the next meeting is scheduled for February 3rd at 2 p.m. Zoom for the board of directors.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Did council have any questions of Mr. Knight? No questions? Councilmember Tate, you didn't have any questions? Okay, thank you. We will now move on to the Internal Audit Committee. We met on January the 6th. Members in attendance virtually were members Julia Liu, Mr. Lawless, Councilmember Carrillo. In person were Maria Bemis and I. Absent was member Rob Taylor. The unanimous approval of the draft minutes of the Internal City Audit Committee were approved by the members present of November the 30th. It was a continued review and consideration of unfunded pension obligations, considering the options to address the city's unfunded pension obligation. The draft policy was brought to the committee for review. Mr. Levine of Wolf Hansen took the lead to walk the committee through each subject title of the policy and the wording. There will be some changes made in the areas of target funding level, discretionary payments, section 115, et cetera, because the list continues. I want to thank the members of the committee, especially staff, for their valued input as we walked through each item, and express gratitude to our legal counsel to get us through some of these terminologies, because all the questions were valid and there were several responses. Before this item comes before City Council for the full council, we will be reviewing the policy one more time as a committee with the changes that were recommended. The next meeting is scheduled for February the 3rd at 4 o'clock. This concludes my report, unless there's anything I may have left off. Ms. Liu? No, that's pretty concise. Huh? Thank you so much. The Tulare County Regional Transit Agency, we don't have a report on that one tonight. Okay. And the Tulare County Water Commission. We met on the 10th of January, and the minutes of November the 8th were approved. With regard to water market development, that was an item that was carried over. There was a presentation by Mr. Aaron Fukuda with regard to the marketing strategy of the Cahuilla Subbasin. It is the goal for this presentation is to allow for the transfer of water resources, to assist beneficial users with securing reliable water supplies without impacting the beneficial users, keeping the local agricultural economy vibrant and active, retaining the social fabric of the area, enhancing local communities, including the environment, achieving sustainability goals required under SIGMA, and to manage to avoid unintended consequences. The Water Marketing Strategy Committee currently is establishing goals and the objectives. Reference was made to a document entitled Reclamation with regards to water marketing strategy grants. The list of committee members of the water marketing strategy was provided. The scope of work was detailed. There were emerging topics like what will be traded, pumping, how far can units be traded, what protection will be in place for the environment and disadvantaged communities, can units be traded, etc. More information will follow as they continue to work on these efforts. With regard to the presentation given by Mr. DeGroot for the Tule Subbasin, we were provided with an overview of the Tule Subbasin water accounting, the allocations and the consumptions, the management practices, the water accounting platform, etc. With regard to the water accounting, there are different types of credits, their definitions, and their methodology. Management practices are available to landowners of the sustainability to manage their farming operation. I am not the expert, nor would I have the answers. One of the areas of information was under management. I found it interesting that landowners with accounts may post water credits for sale or interesting in purchasing. Equal opportunity for all landowners with accounts to view and inquire on post. Private transaction is initiated between the two parties. Administrative approvals required to finalize to transact to protect GSAs while having a fluid market trading system. There is more information. This is just a highlight. With the 2022 Tulare County Water Commission priorities, they were brought over to us from 2021 with minor revisions that will be brought to the next Water Commission meeting. Drought and project funding update, there were really not a lot of changes. I will carry some of that over to the next month in January. No relevant change to tanks and hauled water. The bottled water program, 1,057 households are enrolled. They're receiving 2 to 3 applications weekly. No legislative updates, and our next meeting is scheduled February the 14th, 2022. That concludes the Water Commission. The next one is the Cal City South San Joaquin Valley Policy Committee. That is the committee that is a policy committee. I attended the first meeting, which was an orientation session, and I was one of 322 participants. This is statewide. We were provided with the agenda for the League of Cities with an emphasis on housing, infrastructure, homelessness, and disaster preparedness. We were given a walkthrough how the policies work with the committees, the parliamentary procedures in such a big organization, and we were provided with the committee schedule, the legislative process to learn that this is where the policies begin, and when we go to the League of Cities conference, these are where you have the voting members to take action. There were tips that were provided to us for the lobbying and to present when you go speak for an item, pretty much what to say and what not to say before you go to the House. That pretty much concludes this. It was 2.5 hours. The actual meeting is in February, so that will be the first meeting. This was an orientation session. That concludes that report. We will move into the reports for all committees, commission board reports, subcommittee reports, and staff. City commission and commission meetings, do we have anything for Parks and Leisure? Let me just ask on this list, which ones do we have? Library, okay. Please step forward.
Like I said, you're stuck with me till we get our new one built. We held our meeting last week, and it was a rather short meeting and rather quick. We talked about the status of the temporary library with the work being completed inside and needing approval and moving on. And you have several things on the agenda today that pertain to what is going on. During that process, it seems that all of the commissioners would like to volunteer to assist in putting books on shelves once they're ready to go. And we're hoping that the council will allow us to do that, because the sooner it's up and running, the sooner we get to have our library back. And the other main thing on our scheduled matters was the budgets, which came out, the expenses and the projections and everything. And several of the commissioners had questions about that, and Vicki was able to give us our answers. I'm happy to know that the lease that we have on that building can be between 3 and 5 years, because that's going to allow for construction of a really good library. But some of the highlights from December are delightful. Of course, you know, we have our Tuesday story times, virtual story times on Facebook, and Anna Marie is really good at that. We pre-recorded Santa Claus and had him do a special session where he read to the kids. And we had 1,094 English viewers and 847 Spanish viewers for a total of 1,941 viewers just for our regular sessions. So even though we don't have a walk-in-the-door place, our kids are still being serviced. Our staff continues to process books and getting ready, and they so far have, as of December 31st, processed 24,928 library materials. The virtual book club continues on Zoom at 4 o'clock, and they have a new book that they're started in December, and it was The Silent Patience by Michaelades, and it's going to continue. They have 13 members in the virtual book club, which meets on the first Thursday of every month at 4 p.m., and they receive a new copy of the book. Grab and Go program is still up and running and doing well. At the Rotary Christmas Parade, the Learning Mobile was in the parade, and their theme was How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Everybody loves Dr. Seuss. And Veronica drove it with Alma and city staff walking in front with children, and they were playing the Grinch song as they went down the main street. I didn't go, but I'm presuming a lot of kids did. They also had a virtual ugly sweater contest, and I think there are ugly sweaters everywhere. But staff has been helping with the vaccine roundup, and they help with passing out the gift cards to the people. And I'm sure that some of you have volunteered with those things. And I'm happy to say that our staff at the library continues to volunteer. And we had one adult learner out of the literacy section who wrote a letter thanking the library and the ESL program for helping her to learn English. She now feels confident enough to go out on her own, travel, shop, read prices, and she's starting to read to her children in English. So this is a great accomplishment, and we're proud of those who, she's reading to her child in both English and Arabic. So, you know, we're proud of our literacy program. We need to continue such things. One thing I'm going to say before the fire, we had requested to set up a foundation to raise monies. A foundation is a nonprofit organization. And I know you are, Martha, familiar with them, to help with the library. And we had started that process because we had gotten approval. And we were working with Julia, and then all of a sudden it stopped. In my mind, I thought that was partially due to COVID. I don't know, but it's back on the agenda, and we are going to be bringing it back because we want our new library to be always the best, because the staff we have are providing the best service for our community and our children. And for me, the adult literacy and the children's programs are the most important. So that's our report for this month. Next month, it'll probably be a longer meeting, and there'll be more to tell you. Thank you.
Thank you. It is appreciated. Council, did you have any questions or comments?
One comment.
One comment? Okay.
Just want to thank you for always providing us updates on all those items in the meeting. And I really appreciate hearing all the community services that are ongoing, even with the pandemic and not a physical library at this time. So thank you. Not just I think it's just amazing how many are taking advantage of the virtual services. So love hearing those numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving on with the reports, I'm just going to go down the list. Arts Commission, we do
Yeah.
have, okay.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. I believe we have Arts Commissioner in attendance on Zoom.
Thank you.
Okay.
Please.
Sorry, I was connecting my audio and my video. I'm Eden Santos, and I'm going to report for the Arts Commission. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Yes? Okay. So it's pretty short. It's not as lengthy as library, which is pretty good. So the Arts Commission had a meeting on December 22nd, 2021, and the commission discussed the creation of a project where the city-owned electric boxes in the downtown area are painted, and we are really excited for this project. There are like 3 boxes, and we have decided that the theme of the art on the electric boxes will be positive art and Porterville-centric. We are currently in the process of creating the parameters of the project, such as the timeline, as well as the application for the project and the details for the submission. We are also currently, we currently have a youth position available, and our next meeting will be next Tuesday, January 25th at 5:30 p.m. And that's our report. Thank you.
Do we have animal control? No? Do we have Youth Commission?
No, Your Honor.
To talk.
No, Your Honor.
We'll now go into the staff informational report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a single report, which is your monthly water conservation for December, which showed a 10% decrease in production. And the city just beneath in its cumulative, its goal of 26% at 24.5% cumulative conservation. There was 10 notices of violations issued, as well as 8 administrative citations for waterways.
Did council have any questions? No questions? Okay. We'll now move on into the consent calendar. All consent calendar items are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these matters unless a request is made, in which event the item will be removed from the consent calendar. All items removed from the consent calendar for further discussion will be heard at the end of scheduled matters. Council, I have a question for legal counsel.
Yes.
Item number 8, do any of our council members have a conflict on that?
Mayor Reyes, I believe, was going to note an abstention for a conflict on that.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and note it in his absence. So do we have one noted item, item number 8, conflict. Do we have a motion for the items?
Your Honor, I move that we pass items 1 through 14.
We have a motion for...
With the stipulation, the conflict of Mayor Reyes, item 8.
We can just note the statement. Since he's not there to vote, you don't need to worry about an abstention, but we'll just note for the record that he would have abstained if he voted on it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So we have the motion for items 1 through 14 made by Councilmember Stowe. Do we have a second?
I will second.
And we have a second. No further discussion. Please call for vote.
Councilmember Tate,
Aye.
Councilmember Carrillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Stowe,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Flores.
Aye. Passes unanimous 4-0. We will now move into item number 16 of scheduled matters.
Thank you, Your Honor. There are two scheduled matters before the council this evening. The first is the consideration of a sphere of influence amendment, and Mr. Ridenhour will provide that staff report.
Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. At its meeting on October 20th, 2020, the City Council adopted a resolution approving the mitigated negative declaration for the Citrus Blossom subdivision project. Also, Resolution 87-2020 requesting the local agency formation commission of Tulare County, known as LAFCO, approve an annexation and modify the portable sphere of influence. In Resolution 88-2020 approving the Citrus Blossom tentative subdivision map. Ordinance 1877, a rezone of APN 243-130-042 from RS1 to RS2 was approved on November 3rd, 2020, with its first reading taking place at the regularly scheduled meeting on October 20th and second reading on November the 3rd. The request for annexation and amendment to the portable sphere of influence was considered by LAFCO at its meeting on July 7th of 2021. The LAFCO Commission denied the request for annexation, which is LAFCO case number 1560-P-323, and continued the request for amendment to this portable sphere of influence, which is known as LAFCO case number 1560-P-323A, referring the item back to LAFCO staff and the City of Porterville for further study and consideration of including 4 additional parcels to the west and requested an amendment of the requested amendment to the Porterville SOI. The applicant subsequently submitted a request for reconsideration to LAFCO, which went before the Commission on September the 1st, 2021, which was also denied. At its meeting on October 5th, 2021, the Council provided direction to evaluate an amendment to the Porterville SOI to include 4 parcels recommended by LAFCO, as well as 4 additional parcels, for a total of 8 parcels as shown on the map. The proposed SOI amendment would expand the SOI to border the Bryant-Kern Canal to the west and Linda Vista Avenue to the north. The 8 additional parcels is an approximate 19.7 acre increase to the requested amendment outlined in Resolution 87-2020. The mitigated negative declaration adopted by Resolution 86-2020 did not evaluate the addition of the 8 additional parcels to the portable sphere of influence. Crawford and Bowen Planning Incorporated, the environmental consultant firm that wrote the original environmental document, prepared an addendum to the adopted mitigated negative declaration based on the current environmental and regulatory settings. The addendum evaluated the environmental impacts associated with including the 8 additional parcels into the portable sphere of influence pursuant to CEQA sections 15162 and 15164. The evaluation concluded that the implementation of the revised project, which is the increased in the SOI amendment, will not result in any significant impacts or substantial increase to the severity of impacts previously identified in a mitigated negative declaration. The Porterville Sphere of Influence Amendment request, as adopted in Resolution 80-2020, also included a request for annexation to allow for the Citrus Blossom project to move forward to develop housing within the standards of the City of Porterville Development Ordinance, including the utilization of City of Porterville utilities. The annexation was denied on July 7th, 2021. Therefore, if the project is to move forward, it would move forward in the County of Tulare. Staff's recommendation is that the City Council adopt the draft resolution for the addendum to the mitigated negative declaration of environmental impact, adopt the draft resolution making application to Tulare LAFCO for consideration of a UDB SOI amendment, and direct staff to process the SOI amendment through the Tulare LAFCO. Staff is available for questions.
Thank you. Bringing it to council. Do you have any questions? Councilmember Stowe?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
No questions? How does council wish to proceed to the sphere of influence? I want to make comment, and perhaps the sphere of influence that is being requested was an outcome of LAFCO commission directing staff, the LAFCO staff.
Well, what was originally submitted, as the map provides there, was, I would say, kind of an L-shaped. And it was the LAFCO board, which took,
Yes.
they continued, the LAFCO board, which denied the annexation, did not take action on the sphere of influence and asked the city to consider expanding the sphere of influence to include the additional 4 parcels that just immediately to kind of make a square, which also was a conversation amongst LAFCO of saying the existing, if you'll notice, the existing sphere of influence goes over to the Frank Kern. So there was discussion about, and that became, it was LAFCO, it was discussed by LAFCO. The immediate request of LAFCO was to consider expanding it beyond, I would say that there was support to do that, but wanted it actually to be bigger, and that was what was before the council in evaluating this, which was part of the further discussion, which is squaring off the sphere of influence to the Frank Kern just as it is in its current configuration.
And I want to thank you for the information because the original annexation request was for the smaller amount for the area of the developer.
You are considering this at the request of LAFCO.
So this is the request of LAFCO, the current commission who directed the staff.
Correct.
The LAFCO staff. So
The LAFCO commission.
That's what I'm saying.
That was the action, not the staff,
No,
the
the
commission.
LAFCO commission has given the direction, and it was the LAFCO commission who denied both original annexation requests. It was the commission who denied the first 2. And so the sphere of influence in this is taking a bigger area, going into a larger area.
They didn't take action on the sphere.
They did not. Okay, that's
Because
what I want.
because they wanted the sphere bigger.
Okay.
They asked for you to evaluate, because there had not been an environmental analysis, they couldn't, there was actually a motion to make it bigger, and you can't do that because you have to do an environmental review of it. So therefore, that's why we've done the environmental review, which is why you're here tonight.
And in the meantime, this SOI requests that if there's development, that this development will be to city standards.
Well, right now, it will not be.
It won't be with this request.
No, so right now, there is the sphere is what's, if you'll look at the diagram, is in magenta or pink.
Yeah.
That does not, so that is where the urban development boundary is. There is a unacted upon action by LAFCO
Right.
about the sphere, which would essentially be the urban development boundary, which according to the agreement between the city and the county, any development that occurs within the city's urban development boundary is to city standards. So right now, that is not in the urban development boundary and is not subject to city standards.
Thank you. Councilman Carrillo, do you have any questions? Councilmember Stowe, please, go ahead.
I do have one question.
Uh-huh.
Was all the residents notified properly? Which I'm sure they were.
This is a continued action by LAFCO.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I want a clarification, that LAFCO is the one that is pursuing this. The
Mr.
commission,
Wallace,
the
do you want me to
LAFCO
address this
commission.
item? You want me to address this? So CEQA in itself does not require for an addendum to be a public hearing. Thus, this is why this is a scheduled matter, not a public hearing. If you look at CEQA guidelines, section 15162, as well as 15164A, is where this is just described here. And so an addendum does not have to be circulated for public review. And as such, in looking at the addition to the sphere of influences, in addition to the planning area, so through the environmental analysis, that there was no substantial change in the environmental, the document, and the outcomes of that. So that's why it's evaluated. And
Well, and just to note too, there's a process before LAFCO. This actually, the actual approval, right, goes to LAFCO. We're dealing with just an amendment on the environmental.
correct. So we're processing an addendum and then also a resolution that, for staff to process a request to
Right.
LAFCO. And LAFCO is the decision body.
To LAFCO, right?
That was why so the public hearing on the sphere of influence is still open.
Oh.
It has been continued. Because there was actually a motion to make the additional 4 parcels, and you can't, because it wasn't part of it would have been an illegal action because there had not been an environmental review of it. So therefore, the direction was, well, will the city consider expanding the sphere of influence?
For their public hearing.
And they continued their public hearing.
For
They-
LAFCO's public hearing. That's
So
what I want to make clear.
I guess that's an important point. So even
Yes.
with the council, if the council were to approve this, it still is part of a LAFCO, it is still a LAFCO action that they are in the middle of an open public hearing, continued public hearing.
I'd forgotten that piece to that regard, that it's a continuing of the LAFCO hearing.
Right.
And their request to have this done. Does council have any comments to this regard, in which direction you'd like to go with it?
Well, just to make it clear, they're just asking us to extend our boundaries for the city, correct?
That was
The sphere of influence, yes.
Yes.
That was the
Okay.
direction of LAFCO, not the staff, the actual commission.
Commission.
Right, yes, okay.
Let's not all chime in at once. Do you have any comment, Councilmember Carrillo? No. Councilmember Tate? No. Councilmember Stowe?
Yes, Your Honor, I would, if they're just asking us to extend our sphere of influence and it's a LAFCO issue, and they're going to depend on it, I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution.
Is that both resolutions, just for clarification? There's a resolution for the addendum to the environmental and the resolution making application to LAFCO for this amendment.
Both.
Okay, thank you.
And we have that motion. I will go ahead and second. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Councilmember Tate? Councilmember Carrillo? Councilmember Stowe?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Flores?
Aye. Passes unanimous, 4-0. Okay, we will now go into item number 17.
Thank you, Your Honor. Final scheduled matter for this evening is your regular meeting update on the status and review of proclamation of local emergency for COVID-19. As the council is aware, it made its initial declaration on March 17th, 2020, and at last reviewed and made its continued finding at its last meeting on December 21st, 2021. Tulare County statistics as of today, and and so recognizing it's been approximately 1 month since this report's been given, so the numbers I'm going to provide are approximately 1 month's activity since December 21st. So confirmed cases in Tulare County have increased over the last month by 4,213 for a cumulative number right now of almost 75,000. In the 93257 area code, there have been 1,672 new cases, which is now in the 93257 is 16,225. Deaths increased in the last month by 76 for a total of 1,187. There were 1,762 recoveries now for a total of essentially 70,500. And active cases in the county right now are in the last month have increased 2,375. So there's currently right now, according to county records, 3,293 active cases, of which there are 1,252 in the 93257 area code, which is an increase of 1,045 over a month ago. Vaccinations administered increased over the last month by 12,655 for a total of 268,198. Currently hospitalized are 117 individuals, which is an increase of 53 over a month ago. 116 of those 17 are confirmed, which is an increase of 56 over a month, with one suspected patient, which is a reduction of 3 actually from a month ago. There are fewer people in the ICU right now. There are 13 ICU patients, which is a reduction of 3. So hospitalizations are up, but ICUs are down over the last month. PDC remains in warm status, although there certainly hospitals have made the, I think they called it an SOS, talking about operating at capacity. California Department of Public Health had issued new guidance on face coverings for all individuals, regardless of vaccination status, indoors, effective back on December 15th, which was until January 15th, which would then be re-evaluated, which it was extended until February 15th, and is still subject to re-evaluation by February 15th. The CDC classifies Tulare County as a high transmission county. The cases per 100,000 over a 7-day average in the last month has increased 47.7 per day as the running average, which is right now at 60.6 positive cases per day in Tulare County. Under the American Rescue Plan, can report that the Department of Treasury came out with its final rule, which most significantly provided guidance as it relates to what's called the lost revenue calculation. There was a calculation worksheet that Department of Treasury was using that had a formula to derive a lost revenue calculation for use of funds. In their final rule, they provided what they call a standard deduction, which is of any city's award that up to 10 million can be used for general governmental purposes, and does not need the lost revenue calculation. If you wish to claim more than 10 million, then you still have to follow the lost revenue calculation worksheet. But they have made a standard, regardless of size of city. So if you're a large city that receives $50 million, the standard deduction is still 10 million. For the city of Porterville, with an allocation of 20 million, that 10 million then holds true, that the city may use of funds as a lost revenue standard deduction for whatever general governmental purposes it sees fit. Vaccine events. An event was held 2 weekends ago on January 6th through 8th that had 3,061 individuals participate in the event, including 725 that received their first vaccine. The majority of them were boosters at 2,161, and as of that end of that meeting, a total of 1,267,000 of the city's ARPA dollars has been dedicated and allocated to that, to the vaccine incentive program. So before the City Council for its consideration this evening is to review and making a finding of need for continued local emergency, as well as to adopt the draft resolution for AB 361 that would allow for virtual participation by members of the body. Staff's report, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Does council have any questions? No questions. Councilmember Stowe, did you have any questions?
None, Your Honor. Thank you.
No question. How does the council wish to proceed? We have a recommendation for staff?
I was trying to get to the end of the report.
I apologize.
I was going back and forth reading through it, and I was like, okay.
A lot of information.
So I will make a motion to receive the report and status of the proclamation for the local emergency.
Does that include approving the new resolution on the teleconferencing option?
Yes. Do I need to repeat that?
No, Janet.
Okay.
No, I think you're good.
Okay, we have a motion on the table from Councilmember Carrillo. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
And we have a second by Councilmember Tate. No further discussion. Please call for the vote.
Councilmember Tate,
Aye.
Councilmember Carrillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Stowe,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Flores.
Aye, passes unanimous 4-0. Thank you.
Your Honor, it doesn't appear that there's anyone wishing to speak.
Just a few items. First of all, I just want to wish everybody a happy new year, happy 2022. Praying for better days for the city and the public to get through this, and those that are in the hospital, whether it be COVID or something else, and just trying to get into our family members and friends, loved ones into the hospital for anything. My niece was just in there for to get her appendix removed. So, yeah, there's just a lot of things like that going on. So we're very, dependent on our hospitals and healthcare workers. So just looking forward to a better year with that. The other thing is I want to thank the community members that come in and offer a prayer at the beginning of the meeting. And for the two individuals this evening, thank you for offering those prayers for the city and for all of us. It's greatly appreciated. The next item, I would just like to congratulate the new Tule River Tribal Council. They had elections just this Saturday with some new officers, Chairman Perone, Vice Chair Nito, Secretary Carabay, and Treasurer Carruthers. I just look forward to the year working together with the city and the tribe on various projects and partnerships. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Tate.
Last year was very overwhelming in many ways, but I feel as if we are moving forward and we have good things coming our way. We will continue, I hope, to make an effort to enhance communication with the community, and I just am really looking forward to us getting to the point where we can not have to wear these masks all the time. I feel the same way as everyone else. They're burdensome, and most of us have a lot of issues with it, but in the meantime, we do this to protect not ourselves, but others. So anyway, that's about all I really have to say now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Stowe.
Oh, yes, there you go. Let me get off of mute. I just have one request, if I can. If it's possible to encourage LAFCO to notify the residents of the SOI so they can be aware or have the opportunity to be aware of what's going on. And the last thing is, let's try to stay safe. Just get vaccinated if you're not. There's been too many people, again, we're losing their lives because of COVID. And with the simple vaccination, they can still be with us here. So I ask you to stay positive and test negative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to say congratulations to the newly elected tribal council members, and I look forward to working with them in many future venues as we continue to move forward with a lot of things. But this is the part where I like where people start turning their cameras on. Those of them that are on Zoom. Do I have to call them out by their name? I don't think so. See those smiling faces, of course. I want to give to all the acting city managers over the holidays, how appreciative I am of them and how they were willing to respond when I would ask, okay, who do I call? Who's on first? Who's on second? But how they all pulled together and how they consistently kept the flow of the organization. And they were there for whatever questions we had. Know that it is appreciated. And I do, we talk about the different departments. I became very fond of the waste development out there. I actually used the service for the very first time of electronic waste and all this stuff, the fluorescent lamps with all this hazardous stuff, that I was greeted by a very cordial young man that helped me get all my stuff out of the truck. So that service is available. And Mr. Moore, you're getting a lot of things in line for this year, and I saw your calendar. Don't think it didn't go unnoticed, because I saw it on social media with the things that are being planned through your department. Chief Costello, what can I say? I see the vehicles all over the place, and I see that they are diligently working and doing their part in the city. So I want to say thank you. I know Claudia's going to be on the homeless task force tomorrow with me, only she's hiding behind her name. Javier, thank you for all the stuff that you do as well. There she is, for all that you do. It is appreciated. And that's pretty much all I have to say, and I'm going to turn it over to the city manager.
Yeah, I wanted to say the same. Thank you for saying. I appreciate Patrice and the staff that that assisted in the time that I was out. So always do a great job, and appreciate all that they do. During Mayor Reyes celebrated a birthday after the first of the year, so wanted to wish him well as well.
Fernando, would you like to say something?
Yeah.
Oh, and he celebrated a birthday. I also needed to say that.
Oh, he had a birthday.
I wasn't going to.
Okay.
Wish everybody a happy night.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ridenour.
No comments.
No comment, Patrice. No comment. The officer, thank you for being here through the meeting. It is 8:28. Meeting adjourned.
I think we're going back to closed session. I
I-
understood.
No.
No, I don't think we need to, Julia.
Oh, we don't need to. Oh,
No,
okay.
I've adjourned the meeting. Why do we need to go back?
Well, too late,
Okay.
right?
Have a good night, everybody.
Never